Hi, I'm Paige Wilder and I'm an associate veterinarian here at Best Friends Veterinary Center for going on 8 years. I'm also the loving caretaker of 2 indoor orange tiger tabbies, Moose, also known as Handsome, and Goose, aka Trouble. I'm here to talk to you today about feline environmental needs. That's the physical surroundings that cats have and their social interactions. I wanted to make this video today because I think a fair number of cats lead a stressed life, and I think that contributes to medical problems like feline lower urinary tract disease and also behavioral problems like urinating and defecating outside of the box. Now, a lot of folks ask me, how can my cat possibly be stressed? You know, he basically has all of his food hand delivered to him. He lies in the sunbeam, lies on the couch, gets pets and attention. I think to understand why our domesticated cats are so stressed by their life, it's important to know who they descended from. They descended from Felis libica, the African wildcat. This is a solitary, small hunter of rodents on the savanna and the deserts. As a solitary hunter, they have only themselves to rely upon for their basic needs. And as a small hunter, they actually are prey themselves to larger predators. As a result of this, they are hyper aware of threats in their environment, and they're also very keyed into whether or not they can access all of their key resources. So the African wildcat, it is a solitary hunter, but it's not necessarily a solitary animal. It's certainly not a social animal like a dog. And as an example, it can lead a perfectly happy life, not really interacting with other animals in a social setting. It can, however, have social interactions, and with ample resources, the African wildcat will live in larger colonies where the female cats sort of pool their resources and raise their kittens together. So think of this solitary hunter out on the savanna, and then think about our domesticated pet cat, who basically mostly is indoors, is thrust together with other cats, dogs, humans, whether they're adults or children, who they have to on some level interact with, even if they don't necessarily get along. And they also basically usually eat food out of a bowl, maybe get a tablespoon of wet food delivered to them here or there. So there's this great disparity between their evolutionary past and their domesticated reality. And so thankfully, we have great resources out there to help us as pet owners and also as veterinarians bridge the gap. So the American Association of Feline Practitioners, which is a bunch of basically like Uber cat vets, created a guideline that talks about the 5 pillars of feline environmental needs. Number 1, to provide a safe place. Number 2, provide multiple and separated key environmental resources. Number 3, provide opportunity for play and predatory behavior. Number 4, provide positive, consistent, and predictable human-cat social interaction. And number 5, provide an environment that respects the importance of the cat's sense of smell. Today, I am going to focus on the first 3 of these. So number 1, providing a safe place. So cats should always have a place that they can escape to if they want to avoid unwanted interactions with others, whether it is an unfamiliar guest in the home, an overexuberant child, a new puppy, bully cats, the loud TV, whatever it is. They should have a place that they can go away to and they can feel safe. For cats, that safe place is usually a high up place where they feel semi-hidden. So if you think about like a shelf on the wall or a hammock suctioned to the window, or even like a cat tree, those are all great examples. The nice thing about the hammock is that because of that dip, it's actually semi-hidden, so it's kind of fulfilling 2 different needs there. And just keep in mind, if you do have other cats in the house or a dog or children, you do want to make sure that that hidden place or that escape place has 2 entry points, so a cat never gets cornered and they can always leave. For some folks, it works really well to actually set up an entirely separate room. This can be a bedroom or a bathroom. It doesn't need to necessarily be exclusively for your cat, but it should be a space where you can keep other individuals that the cat doesn't necessarily want around out. This can be kind of challenging, but there are some pretty good, useful solutions out there. So there are some baby gates that basically have a door for humans, and then they have a little cat door for cats. So that's a great way to keep kids and dogs out, but still make the room easily accessible for you. Another option is something called the SureFlap. This is a microchip activated cat door that you can either install in the wall or in the door, and basically only the cat with the right microchip can go through. If you do set up that separate room, it's actually a great place for you to put all your cat's important stuff. And that brings us on to the second pillar that I'm going to talk about, and that's providing multiple and separated key resources. So we're talking about food, water, litter box, play area, that bedding or resting area, all those kinds of things. And the key aspect of this is the cat always needing to have access to those resources. You want to make sure, for example, if you're in a one cat household, that you actually have two of those resources, of each of those resources, and you have them in separate places. And that's because, say, there is an unfamiliar guest in the house and they're in the hallway and the cat can't get to their favorite litter box. You always want them to have another litter box someplace else. And then when you have a multi-cat household, you have to go ahead and think about having one more of each resource than you have cats. So if you have 2 cats, you need 3 litter boxes. So that's a lot of litter boxes. And you know, a lot of times when we have multiple litter boxes in the house, folks will keep them in the basement. And unfortunately, if you have all of your litter boxes in one room with one stair going down to it, that effectively turns into one litter box. Imagine the puppy's at the top of the stairs, or the bully cat is at the bottom of the stairs. Your cat can't get at those 3 litter boxes, and they might as well be one that's blocked for them. So think about distributing those resources throughout the house so that your cat or cats can always access them. So I've lived in small apartments for a good part of my life. So I understand when people get a little concerned that I recommend 3 litter boxes for their 2 cats. Where on earth are you going to find the space? Well, on the one hand, I talk to a lot of people about their cats peeing or pooping outside of the box, and so I know how important it is to keep these separated. I've also seen some pretty cool solutions to these kinds of problems. I've seen DIY, cat cupboards, which are basically a cupboard in your kitchen or in your living room that has a door cut into it about the size of a cat. And then you got the litter box inside there. So it's well hidden, not as visible, so you don't have to always think, my gosh, I have a toilet in my living room. Another thing that I've seen, which is pretty cool, are these plant stands that actually have a litter box in the base. So it's serving 2 purposes if you have limited space. And then if we're thinking about having those escape places that our cats need to get to, a cat tree is big and cumbersome, but a hammock that suctions onto the window, that's pretty out of the way and isn't very intrusive into your life. I've also seen some pretty cool walkways that are actually secured to the wall. So there's basically like little stairs and platforms and hammocks where your cats can hang out on the wall. So that's a pretty good way to provide that high up safe space without taking up much room in your house. While we're talking about this pillar, I think it's important to spend a little time talking about feeding. I think folks who have multiple cats in the house, like myself, have historically fed their cats together. It's convenient and the cats don't seem to fight, so it doesn't seem problematic. But feline behaviorists are very strong on this point that even if we're not being outwardly aggressive, we are very stressed out by eating next to our companion cat. So sometimes this can be kind of hard to arrange. Both of my cats are really fast eaters, so I'm lucky and I can literally just put them in separate rooms with the door shut, give them 10 or 15 minutes, and then I open the door and they are done. Some cats are grazers, and if this is a situation for you, you can throw technology at the problem. There's a product called the SureFeeder, which is a microchip activated food bowl that the bowl will only open up for the cat with the right microchip. So you can put a SureFeeder for one cat in one part of the house and a SureFeeder for the other cat in another part of the house. So that's a way to meet that same need. Speaking of feeding, we're going to move on to the third pillar, and this is providing predatory and play opportunities for your cat. So keep in mind, our African wildcat is out there hunting rodents on the savannah. They're hunting 10 to 20 times a day. And let's compare that to our domesticated cat who, as we've discussed, basically usually gets their food delivered to them. They don't have an opportunity to engage in that hunting urge. It's still there, and we have to try to help them fulfill it. So the two ways that I recommend doing that are through play sessions and food puzzles. So cats like playing a lot, but not for long. So I found that usually a cat is pretty satisfied if you play with them a few times a day for just 3 to 5 minutes. Kittens are another thing. We're talking about adult cats. And the only way I have found that I really actually engage in this is I have set alarms on my phone for when I know I will be home and I know my cats will naturally be more active. The other thing I mentioned before is food puzzles. So I no longer feed my cats out of bowls. I, at this point, only feed them out of food puzzles. There is a ridiculous plethora of options out there. So, you know, on this one hand, we've got a really simple option like a hollow ball with a hole, and as the cat pushes it around, the kibble drops out. Another one is sort of a maze-like structure that the cat has to navigate the food out of in order to eat it. There is a wonderful website that I have lost many hours happily to, and that's called foodpuzzlesforcats.com. And they probably have, I don't know, definitely over 50 different products there. Some are DIY, some are purchased, and everything from stationery to rolling for food, wet food, for dry food, make them yourself, everything. They got all different kinds. And they have short little videos and explanations for each, and they basically rate them on a 1 to 3 scale in terms of how difficult they are. I'd like to wrap up with some quick thoughts about multi-cat households. Some cat folks are kind of sad that their cats aren't more friendly or buddies. And, you know, given what we've talked about in terms of the nature of the cat and the African wild cat, I think it's more realistic to shoot for amicable roommates rather than best buddies. And that's okay, right? Cats aren't dogs, cats aren't humans. They are a different creature, and we want to honor that. And I also want to talk to folks about whether you're thinking about getting another cat in your household. Think about whether you're doing it for yourself or for your cat. If you're doing it for your cat, think that there's probably a 50-50 chance that it's going to go well or it's going to increase tension in your house. But if you're doing it for yourself, by all means, go ahead and call us, and we would be happy to help you try to make that introduction and that relationship with your other cat as awesome as possible. I encourage you to look at the other 2 pillars on the AAFP's website. I will make a brief pitch for number 5, and it's basically that cats have this super strong sense of smell. And so it's really important in your household to try to avoid heavily scented cleaners and other products, especially litter. So whether it is artificially scented or naturally scented, you know, like cedar shavings, cats don't like it. So go for the unscented stuff. All right, well, this has been fun. Thanks so much, and you know how to reach us if you have any questions.